welcome back. Time to get some views from our political experts. We have Metro Councilman Jerry Maynard and syndicated radio show host Steve Gill. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Appreciate it. A quick hit on the Omni Hotel deal with Metro. You're a Metro Councilman. It seems to be that things are going well. What is the risk to the taxpayers? Explain that to us.
Well, the risk of the taxpayers is that we have basically a backup that if we have pledged non-tax revenue. And so you only have so many dollars that the government can spend. So if the projected revenues are not there, then something has to give. Maybe a program, maybe some services that we are providing now, we may not be able to provide if we do not make those numbers in the projected revenue that is the basis for this deal. But I'm confident that the numbers are very conservative, the projections are very conservative, and I'm confident we're going to make those numbers. But we won't know until 2017, 18, and 19. So hopefully this is a good decision. I'm supporting the Omni Hotel, and I think it's good for Nashville.
I was critical of the convention center, but you've got to have a hotel. Knoxville built one without a hotel, and it has cost them dearly. You have to have the hotel that's basically the anchor tenant there. And I think if you're going to do the convention center, you've got to do the next step and get a hotel, and now they've done that.
And you don't want it to be city-owned, so this is something else
exactly.
that has worked out. Okay, I want to move on to former President Bill Clinton coming to town to stump for Mike McWhorter.
Great news.
But you have been critical of Phil Bredesen being endorsing. He has a wide appeal in the political spectrum, but that hasn't worked. So will this work? Will there be any traction that McWhorter will get from this?
Oh, I think Mike ought to bring in Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama. I think he ought to bring in Harry Reid. I think he ought to bring in all the Democrats who reflect what the Democratic Party is, not what he's going to claim it is in Tennessee. So I think Bill Clinton's a first step. I'll be happy to pay the plane ticket. It'll be Southwest. He can fly in from Baltimore. If Barack Obama will come in, I'll pick up the Southwest airfare.
But don't you think he still has some political cachet?
Not in Tennessee. I mean, Barack Obama, when you look at his numbers around the country, you talking about Bill Clinton or Barack?
No, I'm talking about Bill Clinton.
You aren't going to see anybody bring in Barack Obama. Bill Clinton probably does still have some cachet, but I think it's interesting that he's bringing him in, not as a fundraiser, because there are some negatives to Bill Clinton, too. Mm-hmm. Generally, if you're going to bring in a polarizing political figure, you want to rake in enough money to make up for whatever downside you're going to get from the political hit. In this case, they're really not doing a big fundraiser around it, so they're not getting the money to go with whatever political hit they take from Bill Clinton.
Jerry, you like this?
Oh, there's no political hit at all. This is great because the Democrats are excited. If you talk to Democrats, they are signing up. You have to go online and try to get in. It's kind of like a lottery. And I've got all of my political friends and those who are not political friends who love Bill Clinton. You know what they love? They love it. They love what happened during those 8 years where we had jobs and we had a thriving economy and we had fair taxation and people were going to school and people had hope. And because of Bill Clinton and because of Al Gore, America felt like it was great. And so they had a great feeling of their future. I think that Bill Clinton brings that back. And so we're going to be encouraged. We're going to be enthusiastic. We're excited about Bill Clinton being here. There is no downside whatsoever. And I will pay for a plane ticket to bring Barack Obama here, too, because he'll raise a boatload of money. Democrats will get excited and energized, and McWhorter needs it right now.
But when you look at other states, you've got Democratic candidates running as far away from Barack Obama when he comes to states, whether it's in Georgia, the Democratic candidate's running away from him, Texas, the Texas gubernatorial candidate running away from him. So, Jerry, you and I might bring him to town, but I guarantee you Lincoln Davis, Roy Herron, Jim Cooper, and the rest of the crowd won't show up at the event.
No, Jim Cooper will be there.
You talk about Barack Obama earlier this week, the shift of mission in Iraq. This is a big deal, but again, this always turns into, with elections just a few months away, this has turned into a political issue.
And it shouldn't. And what the Republicans are doing, again, they're using anything to attack this man. He kept his campaign promise that we are going to bring the troops home. America wants the troops home. America wants to stop spending billions of dollars in Iraq and start spending that billions of dollars in America to build America. And so we are bringing our troops home. I personally know of two families where they had the husband, the father, the children had to do 4 tours, 2 of them, 4 tours in Iraq. And so it's time to bring them home. We went to Iraq based on false evidence, based on false material, and we know right now that America does not support this war. And so it's time that we end this war, bring the troops home, and I give credit to Barack Obama. If John McCain had been president, we'd be in Iraq until 2050 probably. So I'm just glad Barack Obama's giving the campaign
We were already
promise.
drawing down, and by the way, Bill Clinton was one of those who bought into the same threats in Iraq. And if you're going to bring him in, you got to also ask him about that whole weapons of mass destruction that he, Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, and the rest of the gang were also saying as well.
Is it too early to pull out because Iraq, regardless of keeping a campaign promise, and to that end fine, they don't have a government set up in there?
Well, pulling out the combat troops, I think, makes sense, except we've still got 50,000 troops there, and I hope some of them have weapons and are able to defend themselves against the insurgents that are still there. The question is whether or not this a date certain that he's laid out and didn't back off of in his speech about Iraq earlier this week. Whether that makes sense to pull everything out of Iraq by the end of next year, I think is precipitous and isn't based on what's going on in Iraq. It's based on a campaign promise, and he hasn't kept any of the others, so I'm not sure why he's so adamant about this.
Let me speak, because Steve Gill and I are becoming friends, but I got to stop him on this point.
Whoa. Don't be spreading rumors like that. You don't want that.
I'm not denying that one.
But what happened, though, is that George Bush told us that Iraq had nuclear weapons, and we were told that they had nuclear weapons, that they were a threat to America, when we had the CIA and we had other agencies saying they did not have nuclear weapons, that they were not tied to Al-Qaeda. Yet the vice president at the time, Dick Cheney, said they were tied to Al-Qaeda and they did have nuclear weapons when we had intelligence showing just the opposite. So Bill Clinton, based on evidence at the time when he was president, we may have thought he had weapons of mass destruction, but when the Bush administration decided to go to war, it was clear by the CIA that Iraq did not have nuclear weapons.
I got
15
That is not what President Bush said. He didn't say they had nuclear weapons. They had nuclear weapons development programs that were ongoing, despite their promises that they would stop, and in violation of the UN directives, they were continuing. And chemical and biological weapons are weapons of mass destruction. They did have those.
We are calling a timeout, taking off the gloves. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Always entertaining. When we come back after this break, we have some comments from you about the president's speech on Iraq. We'll be right back.